Today, we're diving into some truly chilling and disturbing stories about being home alone. These are real accounts shared by people who experienced something terrifying when they thought they were safe in their own homes. Make sure to stay until the end because the third story will leave you double-checking your locks tonight. Sarah, who shared her experience on an online forum. Sarah lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood with her husband and 2 young children. Her house was cozy, with a long hallway leading to the bedrooms. One night, her husband was away on a business trip, and her kids were staying at their grandparents' house. Sarah was looking forward to a quiet evening alone. She spent the night watching her favorite TV show, wrapped in a blanket on the couch. Around midnight, she decided to head to bed. As she walked down the hallway, she felt an unusual chill in the air. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. That's when she saw it. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a tall, shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was darker than the surrounding shadows, almost as if it were absorbing the light around it. Sarah froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She blinked several times, convinced it was just her imagination or a trick of the light. But the figure didn't move. It just stood there, staring at her. She quickly reached for the hallway light switch, her hand trembling. When the light flickered on, the figure was gone. The hallway was empty. Sarah let out a shaky breath and laughed nervously, telling herself it was just her tired mind playing tricks on her. She double-checked the locks on the doors and windows before going to bed, but she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The next morning, Sarah woke up to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. She felt a little better, chalking up the previous night's experience to stress or exhaustion. But as she walked down the hallway to the kitchen, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. There were muddy footprints on the carpet. The footprints started at the back door and led straight down the hallway, stopping right where she had seen the shadowy figure the night before. Sarah's mind raced. The back door was still locked, and there was no sign of forced entry. She called the police, who conducted a thorough search of the house and the surrounding property. They found nothing. No intruder, no evidence of a break-in. Nothing. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had been in her house that night. She installed security cameras and motion sensors, but nothing unusual was ever captured. To this day, she wonders if the shadowy figure was a figment of her imagination or something far more sinister. What makes this story even more chilling is that Sarah later discovered her house was built on land that once belonged to an old farm. Local records showed that the previous owner had mysteriously disappeared decades ago, leaving behind a family who claimed they often heard whispers and saw shadows in the hallway. Was the figure Sarah saw connected to the land's dark history, or was it something else entirely? We may never know. Jake, who lived alone in a small apartment in the city. Jake worked late shifts as a security guard, so he was used to coming home in the early hours of the morning. His apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building, and while it wasn't the most modern place, it was home. One night, Jake came home after a particularly long shift. He was exhausted and decided to take a quick shower before bed. As he was drying off, he heard something that made his skin crawl, a faint whisper coming from his bedroom. At first, he thought it was the TV. He often left it on for background noise, but he was sure he had turned it off before his shower. The whispering grew louder, and Jake could make out a voice saying, "I'm here." He grabbed a baseball bat from his closet and searched every inch of his apartment. He checked under the bed, in the closet, behind the curtains. But there was no one there. The whispering stopped as soon as he entered the bedroom, leaving Jake standing in the silence, his heart racing. Over the next few weeks, the whispering became a regular occurrence. It always happened at night, always when Jake was alone. Sometimes it was faint, barely audible, and other times it was clear and distinct. The voice would say things like, "You're not alone," or "I can see you." Jake tried to rationalize it. He thought maybe it was his neighbors or the building's old pipes playing tricks on him, but the whispers were too clear, too deliberate. He started recording audio on his phone, hoping to capture evidence, but every recording came out silent. One night, the whispering escalated. Jake was lying in bed, trying to ignore the voice, when he felt a cold breath on the back of his neck. He froze, too terrified to move. The voice whispered directly into his ear, "I'm right here." Jake bolted out of bed and spent the rest of the night at a friend's house. The next day, he contacted his landlord, who agreed to let him break his lease early. Jake moved out a week later, but he still refuses to talk about what he thinks was causing the voice. What's even more unsettling is that Jake later learned his apartment building was once a boarding house in the early 1900s. Several tenants had reported strange occurrences over the years, including whispers, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. One tenant even claimed to have seen a shadowy figure sitting at the foot of their bed. Was the voice Jake heard connected to the building's past? Or was it something else entirely? We may never know. Emily, who lived in a shared apartment with two roommates. One weekend, her roommates went out of town, leaving Emily home alone. She was looking forward to some quiet time to relax and unwind. On the first night alone, Emily decided to take a long, hot shower. As she was brushing her teeth afterward, she noticed something strange in the mirror. Behind her reflection, she saw another figure, a man standing just a few feet away. Emily spun around, but no one was there. When she looked back at the mirror, the figure was gone. She laughed nervously, telling herself it was just her imagination. But the experience left her feeling uneasy. The next night, it happened again. This time, the figure was clearer. Emily could see his face, pale, with hollow eyes and a faint smile. She screamed and ran out of the bathroom, locking herself in her bedroom for the rest of the night. The following morning, Emily found a note tucked under her door. It read, "I've been watching you." Terrified, Emily called the police. They conducted a thorough search of the apartment but found no evidence of an intruder. Her roommates returned a few days later, and while they were supportive, they couldn't explain what had happened. Emily started sleeping with the lights on and avoided the bathroom at night. But the figure in the mirror didn't go away. It appeared more frequently, always with the same hollow eyes and faint smile. Emily began to feel like she was losing her mind. One night, she decided to confront the figure. She stood in front of the mirror and demanded to know what it wanted. The figure's smile widened and it whispered, "You'll see." The next day, Emily found an old photo album in the apartment's storage closet. Inside was a picture of a man who looked exactly like the figure in the mirror. According to the landlord, the man had lived in the apartment years ago and had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Emily moved out shortly after, but she still wonders if the figure in the mirror was a ghost or something far more sinister. What makes this story even more chilling is that Emily later discovered the man in the photo had been a tenant who was suspected of stalking his neighbors. Was the figure in the mirror a warning, or was it something else entirely? We may never know. These stories are a chilling reminder that sometimes being home alone isn't as safe as we think. Have you ever experienced something terrifying while home alone? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.